It's happening. It's finally happening. Don't panic. Don't panic. Don't panic! We're finally getting new Wizard of Oz Funko Pops. Welcome to Teacup for One. My name is Matt and I have 2 degrees, and the moment we have been waiting for years is finally here. Wizard of Oz Funko Pops have finally been announced for the first time in over 10 years. And to be honest, they're kind of disappointing. But also, if you're interested in the long and, well, not so complicated history of Wizard of Oz Funko Pops, I highly recommend you check out my previous video, A Complete Guide to Wizard of Oz Funko Pops, which I guess now is totally out of date because it's no longer a complete guide. So you know what that means. It is time for another classic Teacup for One Funko Pop Drop ranking and reviewing video. Today we will be going through all of the recently revealed Wizard of Oz Funko Pops from my least favorite to my most favorite. And let me just note, disclaimer, legal disclaimer, that this right here is not a definitive guide, because at the time of recording this video, these pops haven't even officially been announced by Funko. Yes, the glam shots have been leaked, and that's what I'm going off of. Plus, there have also been rumors that there are going to be a few more pops in the line beyond what I'm talking about today in terms of chases or exclusives, but just no. Today, we're just talking about the 7 commons. So, starting off with number 7, my least favorite, the Scarecrow. I hate it. I've waited for over 10 years to get a Scarecrow Funko Pop from the Wizard of Oz, and I waited for this? Like, listen, first off, we don't see the collar of his burlap sack head, which is such a crucial identifying visual feature. And the pose is just of the briefest of moments when we first see him up there on the pole. He's like, pardon me, that way's a very nice way. It's pleasant down that way too. Of course, people do go both ways. Don't get me wrong, it's a charming moment. And looking at the 3 male leads of the Wizard of Oz, I feel like their Funko Pops in this line are meant to be reflective of when Dorothy first meets them. I understand that in theory, but I feel like this sculpt doesn't really capture the character's spirit. Plus, I know this is just the glam shot, but the detailing on the burlap of his face is not nearly as beautiful as it was on that original pop 10 plus years ago. And it almost feels like it's taking a step back, which is weird. Because usually when characters are redesigned by Funko for a second release, years after the first release, they're better. And I don't think this is better. And I don't want to say it's worse, because that implies the first one was bad, and the first Scarecrow Pop was actually pretty beautiful. But anyway, you have to start low so that you can climb high. Next, number 6, the Tin Man. Now don't get me wrong, the Tin Man is relatively low on this list, but aside from the Scarecrow, I think this is a pretty solid collection. I think the Tin Man is a character that works particularly well as a Funko Pop, because he's already kind of rigid and soulless to begin with. And I think this glam shot is beautiful. I just need to constantly remind myself that he's likely just going to be painted one solid color, and a lot of the beauty in this image is coming from that gradient of light, and it's not going to be painted to look like that. But putting that aside for the moment, I think the detailing on the body with all those different pieces that make up the Tin Man's suit, that's perfect. I also noticed that he has a tiny little funnel nose, just the smallest detail, but it makes all the difference. I appreciate that. One thing that I'm noticing, I kind of alluded to already, is that there is a soulless quality to the Tin Man here. I'm not getting a ton of empathy in those Funko Pop eyes, and this is the character that almost cares too much, even though I know he's the one that's I wish I had a heart. But the irony is that you had the biggest heart all along, Tin Man, but this Funko Pop doesn't reflect that. And I'm guessing it's because, as I said, I think Scarecrow, Tin Man, and Lion have all been sculpted in this collection to reflect their state of minds when Dorothy first meets them, so this is likely meant to be the Tin Man when he's rusted solid. Although that said, he is shiny and impeccable, which implies he's already been to the wash and brush up company, so he should be rusted. I don't, maybe I'm overthinking it. Maybe I just want, I don't know. Yeah, this is why he's number 6 on the list. Number 5. I'll get you, my pretty, and your little dog too. It's the Wicked Witch of the West. One of my favorite on-screen performances of all time, impeccably portrayed by Margaret Hamilton. And does this pop do her justice? Kind of. It is difficult to make out how detailed this pop is going to be because the Wicked Witch's costume is essentially all black, but I do love what I think I'm seeing from her pose. I believe that this is trying to capture the "I'll get you my pretty" moment, and it looks like the detailing on the dress is pretty spot on. Like, I'm gonna have to wait till I can see the figure in person, but so far it seems decent. The biggest attraction to me with this figure is actually the broom. It would have been so easy for them to just give her a generic broom, but like, the attention to detail here is great with those red rings circling it. I do have some issues with her face. Looking at this pop, I think the face is just okay. I feel like they did a solid job with the eyes and the eyebrows. The added detail of the hair coming down, I'm not sure how I feel about that because, yes, her hair does kind of fall out from underneath the hat in the movie, but it's not a prominent feature, and that's kind of just adding more black to this figure, thus making it harder to decipher details, but whatever. My biggest complaint with the Wicked Witch is actually the nose and the chin. I think they could have done a more detailed sculpt specifically for her face because this just looks like they took one of those generic Funko Pop Yourselves heads. Funko Pop Yourself heads. Yeah, sure. And slapped on a fake chin and a fake nose. And I keep thinking back, for example, to the Witch Funko Pop from Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. That's an older figure, but the detail on that face is impeccable. I mean, there they kind of veer away from that square face shape so that they can do justice to a very characteristic look. And I think the Wicked Witch of the West deserves the same attention to detail that she's not necessarily getting here. But again, that's only in regard to the nose and the chin. The rest of the figure I'm actually pretty happy with. Although, it's hard to say without seeing a glam shot of the figure outside of the box. I do think the hat could be pointier. It looks a little bit like it has rounded edges, more in the vein of the Scarecrow's hat, but that's not a deal breaker for me. Number 4, the Cowardly Lion. Or should I just say, Bert Lahr as the Cowardly Lion. This pop does something incredible. I can actually feel Bert Lahr, the actor, through this pop. Like, for comparison, I think the original Lion Funko Pop that came out 10-ish years ago, which is a gorgeous pop, I think that pop was more like encapsulating a lion or like the Cowardly Lion as a character, whereas this pop is Bert Lahr as the Cowardly Lion. I mean, just look at the accent pieces on his body, like the fur pelt accent pieces that are very reminiscent of the costume that he wore in the film. And my favorite thing about this pop is just that little division in his lower jaw where it looks like the mask is one piece and his jaw is another piece. That is right out of the film, and it might not even be a costuming detail that you automatically think of when you think back to the lion in The Wizard of Oz, but it is so pertinent in that character design. I think it played such an integral role in how Bert Lahr expressed himself on camera, so just seeing that added attention to detail in this sculpt, it makes me really happy. I kind of wish we had pops that were this good for the Tin Man and for the Scarecrow. Number 3, Dorothy and Toto. And maybe you're surprised. Maybe you thought Dorothy is obviously a shoo-in for number 1. That wasn't even planned. I came up with that on the spot. Go me. I also want to take a moment to establish that this is a ranking of these pops as Funko Pops. Not a ranking of my favorite characters. But favoritism did kind of come into play here, because if we're just looking at the pop designs, I actually think I prefer the Cowardly Lion to Dorothy, but at the same time, this is such a good Dorothy pop. I think the detailing in the gingham of the dress is great. One thing that I especially love is that we have Dorothy in her hairdo after she goes to the wash and brush up company. So she doesn't have the pigtails, she has the not pigtail look. And I think that's a really smart choice, because at this point we've already had 2 Dorothy pops. They were in the pigtails, and there's not a ton that you can do to switch up Dorothy. So they did what they could, and I think it's a beautiful design. Plus, the shoes look great. The socks are blue. That's apparently a thing people get wrong in the merchandising a lot, so this is a very solid Dorothy Gale pop. The one thing that would make it better would be if it was sepia toned. And we'll see if that happens, because there are rumors that we might actually get a sepia-toned Dorothy somewhere down the line. Somewhere down the yellow brick road. Number 2. And I want to take this moment to remind you, before I tell you what number 2 on this list is, that this list is purely my impression of these characters as Funko Pops, not a reflection of my favorite characters. But anyway, number 2 is Glinda. I'm Glinda, the Witch of the North. Don't get me wrong, Glinda's a great character, but would I ever buy a piece of Glinda merchandise over a piece of Scarecrow, Lion, or Dorothy merchandise, or Wicked Witch merchandise? Absolutely not. But this pop is drop dead gorgeous. As soon as I saw it, I saw that picture that was just a lineup of all the pops, my eye immediately went to this one because it's beautiful. And I feel like this pop gets it right. And when I say that, I mean, if you look at the original Glinda Funko Pop that came out in 2012, 2013, it's very similar to this, but it's a lot more simple. So I think they made the right move here. They essentially took the mold and they just upped it. They plussed it. They added way more detail in her dress. They added more expression in her eyes. That crown looks translucent and gorgeous. Which is, again, kind of like the Bert Lahr thing with the Cowardly Lion mask. The translucent quality, the translucent ethereal quality of Glinda's crown is one of those things that's just so iconic that you don't really pay attention to until you do. So I just think all around, this is the most aesthetically gorgeous pop possibly in the entire lineup. And I kind of wish they did this for the rest of the figures. You know, took the characters and the sculpts that they had in that first run, and then just kind of updated the detailing. Because what I loved about those original Wizard of Oz pops is that Scarecrow, Tin Man, and Lion all had their gifts from the Wizard. The Scarecrow was holding a diploma, the Tin Man had his heart, the Lion had his badge of courage. And if you need to encapsulate those characters, I think that's the way to do it, as opposed to immortalizing them in the mental states that they're in before they meet Dorothy and before they gain their confidence. Anyway, let's get off my soapbox. Moving on to number 1. I'm just going to say it right now. This is the best pop of 2024. This might be the best pop of the decade. It might be. It might be. Behold, the Wizard of Oz with the Emerald City. Whew. Oh, it's so beautiful. Like, the only thing that would be better than this is if we got the wizard's disembodied head in the throne room. I don't even know if that would be better than this. There's so many things to break down in this set. Okay, where to start? Where to start? This is everything. And not even just because of the Emerald City. The Wizard Funko Pop. Out of all the characters in The Wizard of Oz, the Wizard is probably the one that gets the least attention when it comes to merchandise. And I'm not saying that that's wrong, because he's the least interesting character in the entire movie. It's just a guy in a suit. But this is a really well done Funko Pop of that guy in that suit. And you know who that guy is? Frank Morgan. Much like I was saying about the Bert Lahr as Cowardly Lion Funko Pop, I am getting so much of the actor and his presence in this pop. And it's just the detailing in the eyes and the expression on this little piece of vinyl. It's so good. And the detailing in the costume, it's gorgeous. But of course, the star of this set is the Emerald City. And now I had heard rumors that this was going to be one of the pops in the collection, and I was super excited for it, but I was also cautiously optimistic because I think the Emerald City is a difficult structure to capture well when it comes to merchandising, because the grandeur of it is just such that, I don't know, it's hard to capture if it's not a matte painting like it is in the original film. I think what makes it work so well in the movie is that you see it from a distance and it just has this grand, epic scale, like all of those cylindrical towers just coming together to make something awe-inspiring. I feel that's hard to capture in a physical structure, and somehow they did it here. They accomplished this gorgeous forced perspective that I think does justice to the Emerald City. And I feel like that is also in part because they made the brilliant decision to include the yellow brick road. Like, the yellow brick road, first of all, it's just adding that splash of color with the yellow up against the green that makes this so gorgeous to look at. But again, it's adding that forced perspective. It's like we're at Disney World. And it's beautiful. So yeah, the Emerald City is perfect. It almost makes up for how disappointing the Scarecrow is. Almost. But who am I kidding? I am going to buy every single one of these figures like the minute they land in a store, either in person or online. I am going to be doing an unboxing video right here on this platform as soon as I humanly can, and I invite all of you to join me. And also, bear in mind, like I said, these are all leaks. I don't even know if we're allowed to be seeing these, but we are. They're all over the Oz fan socials, so the word is out. But there is still the possibility that we could be getting a flying monkey, which may or may not be flocked, and like I mentioned, the sepia-toned Dorothy. So this could just be the beginning. There could be even more. If they sell well, maybe they'll do another line. Maybe I'll get Miss Gulch on the bicycle. If you can't tell, I'm very passionate about this. And with that, friends, this concludes yet another episode of Teacup for One. Now let me know in the comment section down below which of these Wizard of Oz pops is your favorite, and which one is your least favorite, and why is it the Scarecrow? And if you want to be the first to know when I do get my hands on this collection and do an unboxing video, make sure you subscribe to the channel if you're not subscribed already. And if you're not subscribed already, it is so easy. All you have to do is click on my face. Thanks for joining me today, everyone. My name is Matt, and I have 2 degrees, and that's the Teacup for One. Oh my gosh, imagine if we got a melting witch Funko Pop. Oh!